All right, what is up, far, far away fam? Let me know if you can hear me. Just want to make sure. Kyle, unfortunately, is not able to make it today. He had work. And then Tori and CJ, I think they have a car show, but I haven't really heard back from them. One of them was supposed to come on at some point, but for now, I guess it's just me. We'll run through this episode, ranking the ultimate baddies in Star Wars. Being a little transparent here, Kyle's the one who wrote Ultimate Baddies. When I think baddies, I'm thinking we're going through the girls of Star Wars. We're not doing that, unfortunately, although that would be a fun episode to do again. This week, we're talking about the best villains of Star Wars. My personal favorites is what I'm going to be doing. Not the best of all time, just my personal favorites. Want to hear your favorites in the chat. Let me know what you think. But for now, let's drop the intro.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the ones.
Oh, I have a bad feeling about this.
You are now tuned to Radio. If you only knew the power of Darth.
Here it comes. Let's go.
You are now tuned into Radio. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello there.
How's it going in the chat? We got Star Wars team leader and Chris so far. Star Wars team leader, he says hands down best is Hondo Onaka. I mean, he's not even in my top 10, but he's an honorable mention. I can see that. He's super funny, but I wouldn't consider him ultimate baddie. This week... Yeah, so sorry, you just got me. For those of you that are just joining, you just got me this week. But that's okay. We're going to start with, I guess we're not going to do a Hothbreaker because I'm the only one here. I'm just going to dive right into it. On the news side, not much new, but we'll get into a couple news articles. Let's just get started with my top 10 and some honorable mentions, okay? You're going to get mad already at some of the honorable mentions I have on here, all right? The first honorable mention that's not in my top 10, I put Boba Fett. Sorry, I'm already imagining CJ losing his shit because he's a fanboy for Boba Fett. And we're doing canon and extended universe to answer your question, Chris. He asked if we're talking about only canon or you for baddies. Extended universe too, but I mean, to be totally honest, most of these are canon as well, just because we've seen the most of them. So you kind of get a little bit more of a relationship with those characters that are in canon because you see a bit more of them. Anyway, first honorable mention, Boba Fett. I know CJ's rolling over, losing his shit if he's listening to this. But I think with the recent Boba Fett series, kind of made him less badass to me. Not the ultimate villain anymore. He went from being badass villain that everybody's afraid of to being the nice cookie man on the street. Yeah, sorry. Boba Fett's not even in my top 10 anymore. Next, Moff Gideon. Star Wars team leader, he says, oh, then the mother. I could see that. Again, honorable mention for me, though. Moff Gideon is another honorable mention for me. Again, I think he came out strong in the first seasons of Mando. Last season of Mando kind of fell flat for me. Wasn't my favorite, didn't live up to the hype, and Moff Gideon just wasn't as much of a engaging and scary villain as he was before. He went from being very smart, almost like a Thrawn character, to kind of being simple or basic. Seems like he was just the villain there because they needed a villain. There wasn't much going on with the actual character, like in the first couple of seasons. Just kind of lost interest for me, so that's why he's an honorable mention. Another honorable mention, which I feel like many people will agree, is Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren, of all the villains on this list, I think had the most potential that he didn't live up to. Kylo Ren, before the sequels even came out, the previews of Kylo Ren, seeing him in that first scene of The Force Awakens, Kylo Ren looked like the next Vader, which I think is what they were trying to go for. Kylo Ren looked like he was going to be the best Star Wars villain since Darth Vader. And the character just didn't quite get there for me. Instead of being a scary, evil Sith. He was kind of more of like a whiny brat, and that's what he was. So now, do I wish they would redo Kylo Ren? Yeah, because I think he could have been an awesome character. I thought the casting was pretty good for it as well. Adam Driver's a flippin' phenomenal actor. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. And he did a good job with what he was asked to do. I just don't think the writing was quite there to give us the full Kylo Ren that we were all anticipating, that we were all wanting. Another couple honorable mentions, Jabba the Hutt. I mean, obviously he's one of the best for a reason, but he's just not that cool in and of himself. It's just the power and the presence that he has is what makes him the villain, not necessarily anything that he can do personally. Another one, Asajj Ventress. I mean, if you think back, the original Clone Wars series, like before the huge TV show, it was like the old, like, fucking, what do I call that? The karate style of animation, the old Clone Wars. Dude, even from that, she drew me in from the get-go. I liked Asajj Ventress. She was badass. I liked that. I just liked having the kind of assassin Sith. It was cool to see a little bit more of that, where she might not necessarily be one of the master or the apprentice, but having this assassin kind of lightsaber girl with she had two lightsabers. They were both curved, and I loved the curved. I don't know. She was pretty cool. I don't think she's not as cool as my top 10, I think, but she was awesome. So she definitely deserves a mention. Savage Opress, another badass. Wasn't necessarily my favorite in Clone Wars. I know a lot of people liked him. Wasn't really my cup of tea. Most of the fans who've been listening to the show, no, I don't. I just wish Maul would have stayed dead. So that whole arc just kind of like didn't do it for me. Because I think getting cut in half should kill you. But why argue with the Star Wars gods? What's done is done, right? All right, without further ado, we're going to get into the top 10. This might be kind of a shorter episode just because I'm kind of solo. You try to get on and talk nonstop for an hour. It's not going to happen, at least with this topic. I could talk for an hour about other things. Yeah, probably. I could talk for an hour about some things, but we're not going to talk for an hour today. Starting off my list, we're going to go with number 10, Cad Bane. I don't know if some of you think he should be higher, but I think he's amazing. Cad Bane, especially even though I didn't like the Book of Boba Fett, and those of you that watch the show know I hated the Book of Boba Fett. Thought it was some of the worst Star Wars series-wise we've seen in a long time. But Cad Bane, man, it was so good to see him in live action. And I love the style he has throughout the Clone Wars and through Book of Boba Fett. Just kind of the Old West gunslinger style that he brings and the vibe he brings. I love it. I'm a huge Western and cowboy fan, and I loved how Cad Bane kind of brought in a little bit more of that Western flavor, even in Book of Boba Fett, and just was like, just the good, the bad, and the ugly for me. He just was a badass. And not to mention that this guy can take on Jedi. I mean, we saw that in the Clone Wars. This guy is a force to be reckoned with, and I think he's one of the best of all time. Chris put Malgus at his number 10. Which actually, that's a flipping great point. I love Malgus as well. Which leads me to my number 9. My number 9, I had Grievous. Okay. Now, although Chris, now that I'm seeing Malgus, I wish I would have put Malgus in my number 10. So on the fly, I'm kicking Cad Bane out. I'm putting in Malgus because Malgus is fucking phenomenal. Okay, if you've seen the cuts from the video games of Malgus, you know, like that's enough said. Malgus is awesome. He walks in with his army straight into the Jedi Temple. And the lightsaber fight they have, you see the side of the ship door opening and all the red lightsabers ignite. Oh man, just just insane. I don't think anybody would argue with that. That is one of the best. Like, if you have seen it, that's one of the best Star Wars scenes. Like, it's up there with like movies. That I would love to see a live action version of that. That's one of the best Star Wars scenes of all time. Whether we're talking animated, whether we're talking movies, that scene from a video game that most people haven't even played anymore, just because it was an old PC kind of turn based game. That scene was phenomenal. So I'm definitely wanting to see more of that. Chris had his 10. Number 10 was Malgus. Number 9 was Maul. Don't worry, I'm going to get to Maul. 8 was Dooku. 7, Nihilus. 6, Vader. That's a disgrace that you have Vader out, though. I'm sorry. Number 5 was Vitiate. Number 4 was Abeloth. Number 3 was Palps. Palps should be in any top 10. Revan was his number 2, and the Sun. I get that. I just didn't see as much of the Sun as I would have liked to. Yeah, he's literally the dark side, but like, there's some cooler villains. And the whole father son and that daughter thing was, it was again kind of an arc that was just kind of weird to me. So I'm not saying it was bad. Like, I get it. It just wasn't my cup of tea. Wasn't a character that necessarily made me like, whoa, he's cool. But I mean, that makes sense putting him as your number 1, where you're coming from. To continue on, number 9, Grievous. I remember as a little kid seeing Grievous, and the 4 arms and 4 lightsabers was just so cool to me. Even in the Clone Wars TV show, even in the super old Clone Wars TV show where we talked about Ventress, that same series had Grievous in it, and he was just awesome. Just a force to be reckoned with as well. Obviously, in the movie, I wish we could have seen a little bit more of that in the movie. In the Clone Wars series and in that original Clone Wars TV show, he was definitely like a solid villain where he could hold his own. In the movie, I feel like because they were trying to fit in so much in that episode 3, they kind of made him look like a punk. They kind of made him look like a pussy, which he was. He did run away from fights. That's just kind of his character. But I would have preferred someone who was a little bit more violent, a little bit better at handling himself. Yeah, he has this collection of lightsabers, but we don't see that from him. We don't, from what we saw in the live action movie at least, is he was able to hold his own lightsaber dueling Kenobi for maybe 2 minutes, and then he had to run away. I get it. Obi-Wan is obviously a better swordsman, but I want to see Grievous fighting a bit more Jedi and being the badass that he was capable of being. Obviously, when he was outmatched, yeah, I could see he's kind of a wimp. But I want to see the reason he got all those lightsabers. That's the only reason he's dropped down to like number 9, not anything higher. Chris says if we're going based on kill count, they're pretty big baddies. I definitely see that. Nihilus and Vitiate literally drain planets. And I get that. For me, though, when you have the power to like drain entire planets, I don't know. It's just not that cool to me. I don't get to see you doing anything. You're just doing some weird magic spell. And that's not as much fun to watch for me. Thanos characters, these overpowered villains, have never been like my favorite villains. Just because, like, I don't know. I can't help but roll my eyes like, oh my God. When you have that power, what's the point, dude? It's not fun to watch. Any OP kind of character is just kind of annoying to me. I don't like OP characters. Okay. And Nihilus and Vitiate are definitely OP characters. And I'm just not a fan of OP characters. But, dude, I totally get it. If we're going on body count, yeah, these guys body everybody. They're bodying entire planets. They're eating entire planets. So I get it. You're good. All right. After Grievous, my number 8, I had Jango Fett. Some of you might get mad that Boba Fett's not in here. Sorry. Boba Fett became the friendly neighborhood mayor. I don't even know what his job was in the series because it was so dumb. He basically became everybody's friendly neighborhood guy who's walking down the street. He became Mr. Otto, but like nice guy. I just don't get it. But Jango Fett stayed badass until the very end. Another reason I like Jango Fett better, it gives me more of that gunslinger vibe. He had 2 pistols. Instead of Boba Fett having this big blaster, which a lot of people like, and that's fine, the 2 pistols and the jetpack is just so cool to me. I loved Jango Fett. I love seeing all the gadgets he used. We really saw what we wanted to see in the movies, in live action with Jango Fett. Boba Fett, we didn't get to see a whole lot of live action with him until the series. And as you know, I thought the series sucked. So seeing this kind of character in live action, using a lot of his toys and tricks with his jetpack, his rocket, his pistols, even his ship, Slave One, it was just so good to see, man. I loved it. Jango Fett was my favorite, like growing up, my absolute favorite non-Force bad guy. And even as we go through, he's up there. There's one more non-Force user, and I feel like this guy had to be up there. But Jango Fett deserves his place in the top 10. Honestly, all of the guys ahead of him, besides one, are Force users. So it's kind of hard to compete. But Jango Fett was, of all the non-Force users, he's probably one of my favorites action-wise. Chris says, think about the lack of morality and emotions it takes to just willingly wipe out millions of people. That influenced some of my picks. I get that, the lack of emotions and morality. But in another world, I think it's, I disagree. I love philosophy. And one of the things in philosophy is kind of the utilitarian point of view. And basically the idea is whatever benefits the most, whatever action brings about the most good for the most amount of people. Okay, the utilitarianism is basically the idea. And what's right or wrong is determined by the outcome of the most people. Okay? And basically, when you go down that approach, you can justify almost anything. When you think of Thanos, right? Thanos is just, boom, wiping out half the planet, okay? And we think, wow, that's terrible. It's killing a bunch of people. But if you take this utilitarianism approach, Thanos is wiping out half the people so that the planet can be better off. I mean, that's his argument. Obviously, I disagree. We shouldn't just kill random people. But his argument was like, it made life better for everybody else. And it made life better for the future and all the countless generations that are to come. So by weighing it that way, the future of all these people that are still around and all their posterity outweighs the people living on the earth right now, and just half of them. Does that make sense? So when you have the power to just snap entire planets and they're just justifying it for their own reasons, that like they have their own reasons. So maybe like Thanos, it wasn't a lack of morality that caused him to do it. It was his skewed morality. Now, Vitiate and Nihilus are different. They were like consuming planets for their own power. But that's literally the Sith code. The Sith code is basically the strong get stronger, the weak get weaker. Right? The strong prey on the weak. That's the Sith code. So, by his Sith morality, he's not immoral. So he doesn't have a lack of morality. He's following his Sith code. And, I mean, so is it really the lack of morality and the lack of emotions? Because Sith feed off those emotions. That's just his morality. Yeah, the Yuuzhan Vong Queen, they enslaved the universe and they enjoyed pain and inflicting it. The Star Wars team leader. Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily the lack of morality. I think it's their very skewed and different morality. Anyway, thanks for that tangent. After Jango Fett, we're at number 7. Again, a lot of people are going to be upset about this, but Darth Maul, okay? Darth Maul would have been like my number 3 if not for the whole coming back to life thing. Dude, I'm sorry. You get chopped in half. Just let the man stay dead. I don't like that. I don't like this bullshit. Somehow Palpatine returned. Somehow Maul returned. That's bullshit, okay? Let the man stay dead, okay? I don't get flipping Qui-Gon got stabbed in the gut, not nearly as bad as Darth Maul, and he died. And Qui-Gon had like attention, right? Darth Maul fell down a fucking shaft and was like just gone. So not only Qui-Gon just got stabbed, not only did he get stabbed and sliced all the way through, he also fell down this giant drop. I don't like that Maul's back to life. Sorry, I don't. Come at me all you want. But besides that, seeing Phantom Menace, Darth Maul was such a cool villain. The double-bladed lightsabers, the acrobatics that he was capable of, the power, and he was such an unknown Sith, an unknown character. He looked young. He looked like he didn't have the same kind of experience as the people like Darth Vader or Revan or Nihilus and Vitiate. He wasn't that kind of Sith. But the raw power and rage that he was capable of is what made him such an engaging character for me. Even in Clone Wars, we saw that kind of rage that fuels him. And he's an intriguing villain that I definitely, as much as it bugs me that he came back to life, he was still good to watch just because that motivation for him. And just the badassness, dude. The Phantom Menace, you just can't get better than the Duel of the Fates, him fighting Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. Dude, he was so badass. Nihilus, Chris says, Nihilus, though, did it once and developed a hunger that cannot be satisfied. So he was doing it out of his own selfish needs. I don't think killing innocents is necessarily part of the Sith code. No, it's not necessarily killing innocents, but it's seeking power as part of the Sith code. Whatever you can do to get stronger is part of the Sith code. Because through power, my chains are broken. So if he's feeding off of people in order to get more power, that's justified, I think, if you're full Sith like these guys are. Yeah, and Chris says, but I can understand as a Sith, you do what you must to achieve the most power. Plus, we kind of see, like, especially in the Bane book, that those negative emotions like fear, pain, anguish that those victims have when they're about to get killed or they're getting attacked by the Sith feed off of that too, and it makes them stronger. So I think, I just think by his Sith code, it's making him stronger, so it's like justified for him. It's like his own morality. I don't know. Anyways, after Maul at number 6, and a lot of people are going to be upset that he's this low, but he's a non-Force user. It's going to be Thrawn. Okay, I'm looking forward to see Thrawn in live action. Obviously, the extent of Thrawn that we've seen visually is in Rebels. That's most of it. We have Heir to the Empire, the books. I haven't read those books, but I mean, from everyone I've talked to, it's an amazing series. Kyle and CJ both love it. I haven't seen it, but I still like Thrawn. And I'm really excited to see what we see in live action. I think live action could definitely bump him up higher to me. It's just because I'm not the biggest fan of animation generally. That's the only reason he's not higher, because I feel like animated villains can't get the same kind of subtle emotions and complexity that live action characters can. An actor who knows his craft and knows his trade and puts in that kind of time and effort to become the character can get through a lot more emotion, a lot more complexity of villains, especially than any kind of animation can. Simply because so much of communication between human beings isn't necessarily words; it's facial expressions. It's most of the kind of communication we get is nonverbal. And as great as animation has become, you can't get the same level of complexity and nonverbal communication across through animation that you can in live action. And so that's why I'm excited to see Thrawn in live action. I think it's going to give us a lot more insight into this character, a lot more insight into his inner psyche, how he works, and therefore kind of make him a better villain. Just because we're going to get to see a professional actor, hopefully, that really connects with this character and does the character justice. Because, like I said, like animation just can't do it the same way that real people can. Maybe in the future, animation will get there, but I just don't think it can. No matter how good your script is, there's nonverbal cues and just mannerisms that just go a long way. It's like the Joker for me. As great as Mark Hamill was in the animated Batman series, which I haven't seen all of them, but as great as he was, the Joker of Heath Ledger blows it out of the water just because Heath Ledger, I mean, rest in peace, he drove himself crazy to become that character. He literally became the Joker. And it gives you a lot more insight and a lot more, like, I don't know, kind of like connection and fear to this character now. So I'm really excited to see Thrawn in live action. The only reason he's not higher is because I haven't seen him in live action. Chris says Thrawn is a tough one. While he's ruthless, he's a very calculated character that has somewhat of a code he lives by. And that's another reason, that code. I don't like villains who are just willing to. I like villains who have some complexity to them. And Thrawn has some complexity to him. He has a motive for what he's doing. He's not necessarily full-blown bad guy like some of the Sith are, but he still has his reasons. And I think, because there's bad people in this world that are just pure evil, but a lot of the people that we consider bad aren't necessarily bad. They just have their own viewpoints. And they can be terrible viewpoints, but regardless, they believe in their viewpoints just as much as we believe in ours. And I think I think there's both kinds of people in the real world, and there should be both kinds of characters in fiction and in Star Wars. There's going to be those characters that are literally just pure evil. Just like there's people in the real world that have literally been just pure evil. But on the other hand, it's a lot more common to have real people who we think are evil, who just have their own kind of way of seeing things. And they're terrible, and we hate it, but they believe in what they believe in just as much as we believe in what we do. And I think that complexity, I like seeing that reflected in kind of Star Wars. It's fun, and I think that's what Star Wars was kind of about. Anyway, so Thrawn was great. Excited to see him in live action. Okay, top 5. Number 5, a lot of people might disagree, but Dooku. I love Dooku. I definitely want to see a story. I want to see a live action of Dooku and how he turns to the dark side, or at least more of the Tales of the Jedi series, where we got to see more of Dooku's kind of descent, because Dooku's really a compelling character to me. I love the idea of how he kind of, what starts him on that path is his losing faith in the Jedi Order, okay, which I think a lot of us can empathize with. A lot of us, whether we grew up in like with certain values or thought certain ways and or trusted in certain institutions and basically saw that institution for what it really was and how it wasn't what we always thought it was. And I think Dooku reflects that for a lot of us. And Dooku's kind of disillusionment with the Jedi is something that we can all empathize with. I think it's something that a lot of us can be familiar with. And so him leaving the Jedi and then joining the Sith, he's a really complex character. And I think he's a character that you could argue isn't necessarily a Sith to the same extent that Palpatine is. Because I don't think he's necessarily as selfish as Palpatine. But I mean, you could also argue that he is, and that he's just given up and he's kind of rejected everything that he learned in the Jedi. To me, the reason he left the Jedi is because the Jedi weren't doing what he believed to be the moral right. And to me, that's why Dooku left. And his joining the Sith wasn't necessarily him being the Sith, but it was him kind of fighting back against that Republic and that Jedi Order that proclaimed to be this shining star and proclaimed to be this great thing, but to him wasn't. And so I've always really liked Dooku. Plus, the elegance that he just holds himself with. I like this kind of villain who's views himself as superior and acts superior in almost every way, even with his lightsaber form. How well he uses form 2 and how much with his curved lightsaber and how eloquent he is and how elegant he looks, and just how precise and you know what I mean? It's just so good. How he uses that form to the Makashi form with his curved hilt lightsabers. Just it's so dope. I love it. Sorry. But yeah, he's always going to be one of my favorites. If it wasn't for, I mean, you're going to know the top 4. My next top 4, I think, should be in everyone's top 10, like kind of undisputed. Might not have to necessarily be in this order, but my top 4 kind of have to be in your top 10, I think, if you're for Star Wars. Number 4, he might need to be higher, but I'm putting him here just because Palpatine. It's Palpatine. He would be higher if it wasn't for the sequels and somehow Palpatine returned. That was just a fuck up. I think that's we're gonna get to news a little bit later on where it talks about that. But I think that's one of the biggest fuck ups in cinema history was somehow Palpatine returned. I thought that was just so stupid, not well thought out. It was horrible writing. And yeah, you can blame a lot of it on the different directors. But different directors or not, what was released was what was released. Excuses are like assholes. Everybody has them. They all stink. I don't care that you had different directors. Disney, you need to do better at planning ahead of time. You need to do better at creating a solid story instead of, hey, let's make episode 1, try to make money. Okay, now we need another episode 2. Let's try to make money. To me, it was pretty apparent that the sequels were a money grab and not necessarily trying to make good storytelling. It was trying to cash in on the nostalgia of Star Wars while giving us a subpar storyline. Chris says Dooku definitely was played by Palps by showing him how far the Jedi had moved away from being independent and moving towards serving the Senate and what they asked and not questioning the orders. Yeah, I think Dooku got played as well. I mean, obviously Dooku got played, especially at the end when Palpatine told Anakin, do it. And Dooku's face was like, motherfucker, what? He definitely got played. An interesting argument that I kind of had with Addison, actually, back on the Dooku thing, is I don't think Dooku, like, let's say Dooku didn't die, and Dooku ended up defeating Anakin in a what if series. I think Dooku would have tried to kill Palpatine. I don't think Dooku necessarily wanted to be loyal to Palpatine. I think Dooku, that was just the best option that he had at the time. But I think, let's say the Empire happens and Dooku is Emperor Palpatine now, is Emperor Palpatine's Padawan. I think Dooku would have tried to find a way to defeat Palpatine. Because again, I don't know. I just don't see Dooku as much of an evil character as Palpatine is. We know Palpatine's evil. I think Dooku still had some kind of sense of moral code in him. And yeah, he did bad things, obviously, but I think Dooku didn't necessarily want the same things that Palpatine did. Hey, Tori, what's up?
Hey, guys. Just you this morning?
Mm-hmm. Kyle couldn't come, remember? And then is CJ at the car show?
CJ's at work right now. I'm at the car show.
Oh, damn. That sucks. Yeah, so it's just been me. I've just been doing my top 10. I've actually been doing a pretty good job of it. if I do say so myself. Right now, we were just talking about. I just got to my number 4. So let me know if you agree. Okay. Number 10 was Cad Bane. Number 9 was Grievous. 8 was Jango Fett. 7 was Maul. 6 was Thrawn. 5 was Dooku. And now 4 Palpatine.
I don't know. I think Dooku needs to be lower, and Dooku and Thrawn need to be lower, and I think Maul and Jango need to be higher.
Interesting. So, how are you doing this as like your personal favorites, or just like who you think would win in a battle? I guess because that's an important thing.
I mean, Dooku's good, but I don't think that he would like Jango Fett. Obviously, doesn't fare well against like Mace Windu.
But he does pretty good against Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, like he can hold his own. So that's Jango Fett needs to be bumped up because he can outdo Dooku.
Yeah.
Especially with that jetpack and everything, Dooku has no chance.
I don't know. I still think Dooku might have a chance against Jango. I love Dooku, dude. Plus,
no, I'm not saying Dooku is bad, but I don't think that his fighting skills are where they should be.
Maybe. Especially because his form, too, is very much about dueling. It's not necessarily about blocking blasters. And if Jango Fett has his jetpack and can stay far enough away, he could have a chance. That's fair. Although I think Dooku's force abilities, because we saw Dooku and he's really strong with the force, especially in episode 2. Like he's able to do some pretty crazy stuff. Like he's almost up there with Yoda. Obviously not as strong as Yoda, but he's competing with Yoda in force abilities.
But you also have to think that Yoda was his master, so he learned how to do everything from Yoda. So of course it's gonna be similar. But I mean, what's he gonna do? Grab Jango mid-air?
I mean, he could. Jango doesn't have that. Other Jedi kind of have that like force bubble that they protect themselves with. Jango doesn't necessarily have that. I think if Jango has a jetpack and is able to stay kind of out of range, he's got a shot. Once he gets too close, where Dooku can kind of use his lightning abilities even, Jango's dying. I think that's why Jango lost to Mace Windu. Once Jango was on the ground without a jetpack, he's in trouble.
Yeah, fair. It was also just because Mace had some flippy flip bullshit.
Yeah.
And Jango was not expecting that. Which, to be fair, he's a bounty hunter. He's a Mandalorian. He should be, prepared for anything.
I don't know. I wish the sucky part is because in episode 2, they cut out like the full scene where Mace Windu and Jango Fett. They cut some of it out.
It was supposed to be so much cooler.
It was supposed to be a lot cooler, and it was supposed to have Jango putting up a little bit more of a fight.
Mm-hmm.
In the movie, it made Jango like, dude, it was just one swipe across the head, and that's it.
But
meanwhile, it took a little bit more than that to bring Jango down. And it shows just how badass Mace Windu had to be in order to take on Jango.
But I also, at that point, though, I agree that they should have kept the badass fight, but it also opened that door for Boba Fett, when we see it in Clone Wars, to be going after Mace and to start that whole character arc with Boba Fett to meet, to become the Boba Fett that we know now.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand why they toned down the super badass thing. The one I am super mad about, the scene that I am super mad about them cutting, was Palpatine's fight scene.
In episode 3?
Palpatine had the coolest fight scene. He was doing like flips and shit. It was awesome. And they cut it and we got left with still a decent fight scene.
Right.
But not nearly as cool as what it was.
Yeah. And I guess that makes sense. That is kind of a hard scene to like. That's a lot of CGI you got to do, because Palpatine's actor was not very young. What's his name?
Ian McDermott.
Thank you.
No.
There's some news about him.
No, they filmed it all. They filmed it all. They just
his
cut it down.
Spin. That was him.
Yeah.
How? Damn.
They had him on like a harness.
Oh, that makes sense then. Wow,
Yeah,
I always thought that was CGI'd.
No, they had him on a harness.
Good, how are you? I just had to check him out. Oh, I thought you got like a cop like pulling you over or something.
I'm not driving. No, I'm sitting in my show
I know
truck.
you're at the car show, which is dope. How's the car show, by the way?
It has just kind of started. Registration has just closed, but it's super dope. We already got some pretty cool cars out. Got a 5-window coupe and an old Ford pickup, and then my old Dodge, and then we got some of the newer cars. My friend Beth is here with her Honda Civic that she's souped up and
Oh, okay. I was gonna say
doesn't
just a Honda
actually
Civic.
look like a Honda Civic. No.
I was gonna
And it's
say I
not
was like a
like
Honda Civic.
And
Wow,
it's
they're
not like a 90s or 80s Honda Civic. Like it's a newer one, and she's like thrown turbo and
Right. I
underglow
gotcha.
and everything.
I was gonna say, I was like, wow, the Idaho car shows are not the same.
Oh, no.
A Honda Civic, huh?
Oh no,
They got some Toyota Corollas over there too.
Nope, that's another Honda. Nope. I was like, wait, hang on.
All right. Do you want to share your, I guess, 10 through 4 real quick off the top of your head? I know you don't have like a list that you've written down, but
I didn't. I
any
can't.
honorable mentions that you want to talk about?
Unprepared. So obviously you all know me, you all love me, Maul and Palpy. I gotta throw some love for Grandma Palpy. Even though, yes, Maul was a bit fucking cocky and got murked by a Padawan. It's fine. It's fine. I'm slowly getting over it, I promise. So Maul, Palpy, Dooku is pretty low on my list. He's a pretty good bad guy, but he's also pretty, like, and then Grievous. I love Grievous. I have to put him up a little bit higher because yes, he's a robot, and yes, he can do things that people can't, but still, he's wielding 4 sabers.
Dude, he's dope.
He's wielding
I
4
talked about him
that,
earlier and just how I wish we would have seen more of him in live action.
Not only is he wielding 4 sabers, but he's wielding 4 sabers that he took off of Jedi. Jedis are hard to defeat. So the fact that he's got at least 4 of them, we don't know if he has like a lightsaber case instead of a gun case, lightsaber case where he just wakes up one morning, you know what? I think I want blue. Like,
let's go shopping for lightsabers.
Right, it's like Lando's cape closet.
Yeah.
Vader is good. I like original Boba Fett though.
OG
as much
Boba.
as I love
So do
him. I loved
OG
him.
Boba.
Jeremy. Yes, that's his name. Jeremy. I loved Jeremy. His Boba Fett was the perfect amount of, granted, we didn't really get to know him a whole lot, but it was the perfect amount in what we did see of like that mysterious bounty hunter who took no shit, you know, all of that fun shit. But at the same time, like, he spoke just enough that it was like, yep, that motherfucker's a badass.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. How many? Dooku, Maul, Grievous, Boba. I did Vader. Vader is good. I do like.
I haven't got to Vader yet. He's in my top 4.
So what Vader are we talking about here? Are we talking about prequels, Anakin transitioning into Vader, like the last one where he's on Mustafar? Or are we talking like originals?
I'm talking like overall. Vader, Anakin, Vader, like all of him, Vader.
Overall, Vader is pretty high up there. He's got
even in
some
Legends.
mommy issues. Like he's got some mommy issues, but it's okay.
Obviously.
We love a sad
Vader's
boy.
got issues. That's his whole point.
Like, it's okay. We love a sad boy. It's fine. Who doesn't have, like, really though, who doesn't have issues? I can relate.
Yeah. So, yeah, number 4 was Palpatine. Just because, like, the planning that Palpatine had. Obviously, the only thing that makes him bad to me was the biggest fuck up in cinema history, him coming back. Somehow Palpatine
returned.
Yep. Sorry,
what
that's
the fuck kind of line is that,
yep.
Poe?
One of the biggest fuck ups in cinema history. But other than that, like, if you take out the sequels, Palpatine is so awesome.
Oh, he's badass.
Yeah, like everything about him, just like I love that, like dark hooded figure who's always behind the scenes, but is like
Up front
slowly
center.
taking control. And I also like how he's not the bad guy that's like in the limelight. He's working from the shadows. He's manipulating the system of the Senate. And that's the most accurate bad guy to what we have today, I think. It's those evil guys manipulating the system.
So I'm gonna go on a small itty bitty tangent here about the Jedi and how they've seen fucking like holograms of Sidious, and it's just Palpatine wearing a cloak with a hood slightly over his forehead. I want you to go put on a cloak and see if Addison doesn't recognize you.
She will.
Exactly. Like
That's
the Jedi
fair.
had their head so far up their ass they didn't look. It's like magicians where like they're doing the thing like over here because they're really doing the thing over here, but the focus is over. Yeah.
No, I know. We know how Tori feels about the Jedi. The Jedi are almost as bad as Palpatine himself.
The bane of my existence.
Chris wants to know what you think of his top 10, Tori. Number 10, he had Malgus. Number 9, he had Maul. 8, Dooku. 7, Nihilus. 6, Vader. 5, Vitiate. 4, Abeloth. 3, Palps. 2, Revan. And 1, the Sun.
Let me go back.
It was around 9:38 a.m.
Yep, right there. Sun. I mean, I think that Malgus should be up a little bit more. I love Maul, but
I didn't have him in my original top 10. But once he said Malgus, I was
right?
like, oh yeah.
Shit, now I got to do some edits. I think Dooku and Malgus should have swapped places.
Dooku and Malgus.
Yeah, Malgus should be 8 right in between Nihilus and Maul, and then Dooku should be after Maul.
I mean, I like Dooku. I'm a Dooku fan, so.
I like Dooku. I'm not saying that he's terrible. I just don't think he's like one of the greatest like to ever exist in the evil of the universe.
I totally get you. Okay.
Also, any of our fans, my birthday was like in March, and if anybody wants to find me a fucking Palpy cane, that would be amazing.
Palpy cane?
I've been looking for one forever, and I went to Disney and I was like, I'm gonna get myself a grandma Palpy cane, and they were fucking sold out. I was so pissed.
Sad. Number 3. For my number 3, I had Darth Bane.
Bane is good.
Bane is, I think for anybody, Bane is a solid number 3.
Yeah.
You don't even have to read the books. You just have to know about Bane, and he's pretty badass.
I mean, he did it. Yeah, it was Bane. I mean, he was. I would put him up as like number 1 only because he was the one who created the Sith as we knew it, and then Palp kind of destroyed it. But he is the one who created the Sith, essentially, not in physical terms, but in the terms that we know them.
Exactly. He created the Sith we know today.
That Bane truly understood the whole balance thing. Yes, he was evil, but he understood the balance and why there needs to be that balance. And Palpatine was like, yeah, fuck that.
Bane was definitely a lot of the Sith that we know comes from him. A lot of the Sith philosophy comes from him. Big like the Muhammad of the Sith.
It is. And if you read the Book of the Sith, like obviously it's going to have a bunch of different, like you're going to have the Night Sisters and, the older Sith in there and the original Sith and all of that. But it all basically just kind of talks about the history until you get to Bane and the Night Sisters. And that's when they really like dive into what a Sith is, what the dark magic of the Night Sisters is, what everything is. And that's, you start learning via Bane and the Night Sisters. That's why I like the Night Sisters so much, is because everybody paints them out to be a bad thing. And really, they're just aggressive hippies. It's fine.
But I think Bane is like the prophet, like of the Sith. Like, I don't know, Joseph Smith of the Sith.
Oh no, Garrison! No! I would have gone with like Moses, but Jesus.
Moses? Hold on. As a Mormon, Joseph Smith is like the guy, okay?
Yes, yes. he is
If you're Mormon,
the
Joseph Smith is the
guy.
guy.
He is the guy. It took me a lot of years in therapy to be like, you know what? Maybe Joseph Smith isn't the guy. Like, I get it.
Hey, whatever your religion is. But Bane was like that for the Sith. Bane was like, so much of what the Sith believe and try to do comes from Bane's like philosophy.
Yep.
And then for number 2, a lot of the stuff that Bane got his ideas from came from Revan.
And
I
Revan
think
did
Revan's
play
my
both
number 2.
sides.
Yeah, I think Revan's my number 2. Actually, going back to Bane, there's one thing I want to talk about. Bane was Bane was evil.
Oh, yeah.
But he, for some reason, he still had a bit of humanity to him that made you like kind of understand why he was evil. Like his upbringing makes you think like, yeah, if I had that upbringing, fuck, I'd be a dick too.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he brings that human element to evil.
And I mean, you can also use the same argument kind of sort of for Dooku. He didn't have like a shitty upbringing, but he did start to question the Jedi, and that's where that whole thing started with him turning to the dark side. It wasn't necessarily he wanted to be evil. He just didn't want to follow the stupid rules of the Jedi anymore. And so he lost faith there. So, right. I mean, Dooku and Bane kind of coincide, but they also kind of don't.
I get that. For me, Dooku wasn't like his joining the Sith wasn't necessarily like it wasn't the same as Bane. Bane embraced that idea. I think Dooku was like the best option. I don't think Dooku was. Yeah, Dooku to me never struck me as full Sith. Yeah, he never struck me as full Sith to the extent that Palpatine was. Dooku to me was more like, this is how I kind of can help fight against the Jedi Order and this Republic that professes to be, you know, the best thing, but is actually hurting more people than it's helping. And so to me, he was just caught in between. Yeah.
And especially when you're raised in, you know, something like the Jedi, where it's no, there is good or there is bad. There is no in between. He kind of was raised with there is only one option outside of being a Jedi.
And that's Sith.
That's because, you know, I doubt that Yoda gave him the option of, well, you could just fucking leave. Because I'm sure that if he could just leave and just not do anything like Ahsoka did, he probably would have done it.
It's like a lot of high demand religions. A lot of high demand religions, they try to be like, you're either in this religion or you're going to hell.
Yeah.
There's no like, you're going to be a good, normal person outside of this religion. It's either you're in this religion all the way or you're going to hell. And so for a lot of people, when they leave those kind of religions, it's like, well, fuck it. I might as well go to hell. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think that it wasn't so much of a, yes, I choose to be evil. I think it was, again, more of the, I have literally no other option.
Yeah.
I've been told this is the only way to exist for all of my life.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Revan.
Sorry, I killed my camera. I'm trying to fix the snaps on my truck. And
hey, don't stress, Tori. You're all good.
I don't want everybody to get a nice view of up my shirt.
That's okay. Chris will just have to suck it up. I'm sorry, Chris. I know you were looking forward to it.
Sorry, Chris.
I'm just kidding. Sorry. I was just calling out the first name I saw. Chris just seems like the good sport who would like be chill with it.
He does. Chris and I used to argue back and forth in the comments all the time. It was a great time.
Yeah. Okay. Number 2, Revan. I love Revan, even though he's technically like a good guy too. That's what I like about him. I like that conflicting. I like how he had a little bit of both. Plus, he's just badass, dude. Revan is so awesome. Oh, yeah. Everything about him. Yeah, just love Revan. I don't think there's much else I really need to say about Revan, to be honest.
Revan stands on its own.
Yeah, necessity. Like before I die, in order to die happy, I need to see a live action Revan.
Yes. Who? Okay, off topic, but on topic. Who would you have live action Revan?
I mean, Keanu Reeves, 100%. I'm sorry. I think, yeah, Keanu Reeves. Somebody in the chat last week said somebody else that actually was intriguing, but I can't remember who it was.
I think
I can't remember who it was.
Loki.
No.
Tom Hiddleston? No.
Hell
Tom
no.
Hiddleston is. I think that he would bring an interesting.
Damn. What was the name? Somebody said a name last week in the show of who could play Revan.
If it was you, remind us.
Yeah, it was actually like, oh, I could totally see that. I mean, Keanu Reeves is on it. Honestly, like the one we want the most.
Who's taking his damn dog this time?
What?
Keanu Reeves. His dog.
Yeah. Oh, I get it now. I'm sorry.
I thought it was funny. Fine.
Yeah, dude. Oh, man, it's gonna drive me crazy. I mean, the best one I can think of, I'm sorry, is Keanu Reeves. I think there's a reason for that.
Keanu Reeves would be good.
Oh, I remember. Hold on. He's a great actor too. Taylor Kitsch.
Taylor Kitsch.
Have you seen Waco? Did you see that Waco TV show?
Yeah. Does he play David Koresh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great actor. He's also in Terminalist. He's in End of Watch, or not End of Watch. He's in Lone Survivor.
Yep, I can see him.
Yeah, good actor.
I could see him being a good Revan.
Just because Keanu Reeves is getting a little older.
Up there.
Taylor Kitsch, he's a solid actor. He could do it. I guess he's kind of older too. He's 42. How old is Keanu Reeves? 58. Okay, so he's definitely quite a bit younger than Keanu. Okay, Taylor Kitsch. All right, and then
just out of humor's sake, if he was still alive, I need John Wayne in the Star Wars universe. I mean, I know he already is because he voiced the elephant-looking dude who we see for like literally 2 seconds. But I need John Wayne in full John Wayne glory someplace in the goddamn Star Wars universe.
Dude, maybe like hate me. I think John Wayne would have been like a great like face for like Darth Vader.
John Wayne, Darth Vader?
Yeah, so like I don't know, John Wayne looks like he could be like Darth Vader without the helmet. You know what I mean?
He is and John Wayne was super tall. Like, so
yeah, you know what I mean?
Did you ever watch any of his? Like, are you a John Wayne fan? Did you watch?
Yeah. True Grit, the old one.
The original.
Rio Bravo.
El Dorado, Who Shot Liberty Balance, the Sons of Katie Elder. You know, all of that. Yeah, no, he was so big that all of his horses. They literally could not find a horse that would fit him that wasn't a Clydesdale. That's why he looked so off on all of his horses, because they were all too small for him because he's such a big dude.
Yeah. Dude,
also,
which is why he would be a good Darth Vader, I think.
Also, fun fact, Ronald Reagan, before Ronald Reagan was president, told John Wayne that he needed to run for president. And John Wayne's like, no, nobody's going to want a Hollywood actor. Like, nobody's going to follow me. It's fine. I'm not going to, no, I don't want to run for presidency. And then a few years later, Ronald Reagan ran and he won.
Reagan's like, I bet. I'll be one of the Republicans' favorite presidents.
Right.
All right. And then number one, just to finish it up, dude, to me, nobody's better than Darth Vader. Darth Vader is the villain of Star Wars to me. Especially like with some of the legend stuff, like Darth Vader, like, dude, I'm sorry, I'm always going to come back to this, but stop, Vader, you're surrounded. And he's like, all I'm surrounded by is fear and dead men.
Yes.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. Like, I want to see more of that Vader. I love Vader. I like not only how strong and raw power and passion he has, but also like the reasons behind it and the internal struggle that he constantly has and like why he turned to the dark side. And it seems like so much of Vader, what fuels him is like that loss that he's experienced all his life. And basically, I feel like a lot of times Vader, he knows he's turned bad and he regrets it, but that pain of like, I'm already here, I'm stuck. He seems like a slave to his choices, and that drives his regret even more, which drives his anger even more, which drives his dark side even more.
I had to go
Just
steal my
never-ending
sister's
cycle.
phone.
Well, you're good. Like, I just feel like Vader's that never-ending cycle of like regret and remorse and anger and
He
hate,
is.
and he's such a good insight into, I think, how anyone could turn to the dark side.
He is, and it's, especially when you look at why, like, it wasn't for any like truly evil reason that he turned.
Right.
Like, he was genuinely terrified for his child, come to find out children, and the woman that he loved. Like, it wasn't out of a, oh, I want to take over the universe, you know, all of this shit. It was initially, granted, it did become that, like on Mustafar, you know, my empire, your empire, or your new empire. Like,
I mean, I think it goes to anyone's head. It's just such a good job of what it would be like for anybody to fall to the dark side, and I think that's what he is. I think he's meant to reflect a little bit of anybody that draw to the dark side, but also that ability to get and find redemption.
And it just goes to show, like, we heard it from the beginning all the way through about how the Jedi was like all the way through the prequels, the Jedi were screaming about how, you know, the dark side's a temptress. It is full of seduction and it will seduce you and all of that fun stuff. Well, it was like, it was really, at least for me, it was really fun to watch the seduction happen.
Right.
Like, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah, that's the best part. I love watching the seduction. The buildup is some of
the tinglies in the right spots.
But yeah,
Oh
dude, Vader's he's awesome. And just I don't know, the way they, like, for a character that you can't see, like, obviously Anakin, we can see his face, but for a character that you can't see his face half the time, it's insane how well you can kind of gauge what he's
his
feeling.
Emotions. Yeah,
his
emotions. especially at the end of Clone Wars when he finds Ahsoka's saber. Like, that, you didn't have to see his face. You could tell by the way he was standing, by the way he paused, his heart broke. That was the last person that he really had, was Ahsoka, and he thought Ahsoka was dead. Like, that was the last little bit of Anakin, and that, I think he had already lost Padme at this point. He had already lost his child at this point. He literally had nobody else except Ahsoka. And he thought Ahsoka was dead. That was the last part of Anakin dying. And it was, as this is going to sound terrible, it was really cool to see that. Like, it was really cool to see that piece of Anakin that's was
not
alive.
Terrible. That makes total sense. That makes sense. That's not terrible.
Well, like, it sounds terrible as in saying, oh,
it was great to see someone die.
Like, right? Like, it was great to see that last part of humanity just burn up in a ball of flames.
So yeah, that's my top 10. You want to get to, do you have any news? I had a couple news things that I want to hit on, and then we can call it.
Yeah, there was
Let me hit the button. Let me hit the button.
This is Alton Castle for the only news you need, the HoloNet News.
Okay, go for it.
CJ's gonna watch this and he's gonna be like, that bitch.
That's okay. I already called her out. Or called him out. I've been throwing shade at him all episode. I'm just kidding. No, I haven't.
So there has been a producer that has come out and said about how Star Wars producer calls out toxic fandom attacking Kathleen Kennedy.
I don't think that's toxic. I think
Tony Gilroy was the one who did it.
Really?
Yep.
Whoa.
Speaking with Deadline, Andor head writer/producer Tony Gilroy addressed the toxicity he sees from fans towards Star Wars President Kathleen Kennedy.
What did he say? No, wow, now I'm curious. Because Tony Gilroy,
right?
one of the Yeah,
Looking
he
at the
killed it.
comments that Kennedy sees every day, Gilroy was shocked by what he saw happen during his work on Rogue One, a Star Wars story. It was shocking on Rogue One because I didn't really have exposure when Rogue happened and everything that happened. I was really blown back by what was going on and this that I hadn't paid attention to. So I knew about it when I came back and what to expect. You have to realize about that community and their passion. They love this thing so much. The hardcore, deepest you have within the community of shites, I don't know, and sunnies and
shites.
Kurds, I don't know. You have
He's-
all different kinds of people who have different, but their love of the show and the love of what means to them is a love of what it means. This is typed weirdly. The love of what it means to them is something that you really have to pay attention to. So my attitude has been, and the attitude of the show is, as much as we, as far out there as we get, and as much as we bend the tone of the idea, we can never ever be cynical about it. We have to take it more seriously than anybody else has ever taken it. We're never winking, we're never kidding. And so we have this mix of people who know nothing about Star Wars on our show, and then we have a bunch of people on the show that are huge nerds, and it's the marriage of knowledge and history mixed with a real ambition to take it someplace else with hopefully respect. And I want to respect that audience. Now, I do read what there's no way of doing it not being controversial. There's no way. It's impossible. Like Kathleen Kennedy's job is like, you don't want to be Kathy ever up on the internet. It's just what she goes through and what they ... and it's been going on for years. Yeah, you got to have a pretty thick skin to do that, but I pay attention. I don't think we made any real adjustments because of it, but it's been interesting to watch.
Okay. I don't know. Because I get it. I just don't think that the toxicity is exclusive to Star Wars people. I think
It's
the
not.
toxicity is just in today's society.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Everywhere and everyone. You see it on Twitter. You see it in politics. You see it in flipping Avatar: The Last Airbender fans. Like, it's not unique to Star Wars. And that's the part that bugs me. Everybody's like, Star Wars fans are so toxic. No. Star Wars is just popular. People are toxic. And people have been toxic. I don't know why people think that this is something unique to Star Wars.
It's not.
People are just assholes. That's just the way the world is. So I don't think it's necessarily you being unique to Star Wars. What I think is unique to Star Wars is they fucked it up a lot.
And now they're trying to backpedal their fuck ups because they realize how much it kind of pissed everybody off. So now they're pissing people off even more by trying to backpedal and fix their fuck ups. Well, in fixing them, it completely rewrites.
If you look at the common thread with a lot of problems that have been around movies, Disney is a kind of a common theme. Disney's been pissing a lot of people off. Okay, They're doing divisive shit. Sorry, they're doing.
Speaking of Disney pissing people off, I came across a TikTok the other day. And before people start coming at us in the comments of whenever this video gets posted, it was a darker skinned person. I don't know what the politically correct way to say black is anymore. Person who spoke out about the color correction Disney is doing. So they redid Tinkerbell, live action Tinkerbell, and it's it's an African American person who plays Tinkerbell, which kind of threw everybody. Okay, cool. They are doing a How to Train Your Dragon live action has been released, and he attacked Disney, DreamWorks, everything, because he's like, okay, there's a difference between including people and rewriting things. Like, okay, Black Tinkerbell, okay, cool, whatever. But when you rewrite real people, real things that happened, real heritage, that's where there's an issue. Because the lady who's playing Astrid has dark brown hair, the typical the curly hair. She's darker skinned. She's got brown eyes, and he straight called everybody out on it. He's like, that's literally Norse history right there. You don't see that in Norse history. We were not up
in Scandinavia.
In Norway, up north. Like, it was blonde and blue eyes and light skin, like white. You're rewriting history there.
Well,
so,
and to think about it, it's not like Disney. Yeah, Disney's been doing it a lot, but it's not just Disney either. I mean, we talk about this Cleopatra thing with
Oh,
Netflix.
yes. Did you hear that Egypt is suing Netflix over it?
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, just pick the best actor, right? And that's all it has to be. Because if you look at a great example of this, The Shawshank Redemption. Have you seen it?
Not in a very long time, but yeah.
Right. Morgan Freeman. You would probably say that's one of the best casting, one of the best roles of all time. Morgan Freeman killed that role.
To be fair, though,
In
Morgan
the book,
Freeman
he's a white guy.
Yes. To be fair, though, Morgan Freeman kills every role that he's in.
Well, that's what I mean. Nobody complains when because back then he was the best actor for the job, plain and simple. Who cares that the guy was supposed to be a redheaded Irish guy? That's why he's called Red.
And I think a lot of
Morgan Freeman was the best actor for the job.
Also, I don't think that a whole lot of people who saw Shawshank or see it now
read the book,
realized that it was based off of a book.
Yeah, which is fine. But I just think people don't care when you cast the best person for the job. They don't. People care when you go into the movie, for example, Little Mermaid, and say, we're deliberately going to cast someone black. I think that's why people got upset. It wasn't like, hey, let's anybody and everyone, and whoever's best for the job. It was like, no white people. And like, I think that's what got people riled up.
And the fact that, especially with like the Cleopatra thing that's happening now, and the How to Train Your Dragon and everything, they're deliberately taking away history, kind of, because for years I've been hearing about how, well, Cleopatra is from Egypt, she's going to be darker skin color. No, actually, Cleopatra was actually from Greece. Yeah. She was a lighter. Granted, Greeks aren't necessarily not dark skin,
right?
But they're not white. They're not black. They have more of the olive, I guess you would call it.
And it's more like if we were to make a movie about Martin Luther King and cast a white guy,
everybody would lose their shit.
People lose their shit, right? So, like, I don't want to go on forever talking about, because this is a hot topic. And that's fair.
You can hear me better.
But you know what I mean? I mean, I think there's a reason people got upset, and I think there's a reason people get upset about these things. They are hot topics, and you know, Disney and like a lot of companies are just taking them head on, and they're getting into the thick of it. So that's why people are getting upset. Yeah, the Women King movie, bro. Don't get me started on that, Chris. Jesus Christ.
So back to Star Wars really quick. Deborah Chow has come out. This is a quote about Kenobi season 2. This was always conceived as a limited series, and I'm sure you can tell from the story that it is closed. We did obviously seem to tell one big story. Who knows? There's 10 more years before New Hope starts, so never say never. But for this particular project, it really was conceived to be a limited series.
For Kenobi?
Yes.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of shit recently that like Kenobi should have been a movie. Kenobi should have been a movie. Kenobi should have been this, or you know what I mean? I think Kenobi was quite honestly, a mistake. I didn't think they did it very well.
I think that
it was a letdown.
It was, but at the same time, like, I enjoyed parts of it, which that's always going to happen, no matter if it was a movie or a TV show. You're never going to get 100% involved or on board with absolutely everything that happens every second of the show, movie, whatever.
Right.
But I do think that they turned it into the Reva show.
It did. And it was, I don't know. And the thing is, that one, like, people, they called out, it's because racism. I don't think it was about racism that we didn't like her. It just wasn't a good character.
No. And that's, Reva, she would have been a good character if they didn't focus on her so much, because it did. And in Star Wars, we do tend to see it turn into kind of a side quest of somebody else. And that happens in the original movies and everything. Like, there's always the small little side quests.
But this side quest kind of like took over.
Yes, it took over. And I think that is where the final straw with all of the Star Wars fans was okay, cool, like maybe an episode of kind of going into who Reva is, have it extend across the entire show in small bits and pieces of we have to put the pieces together of who Reva is type thing. But where they took like a couple episodes and it was okay, well, who the fuck is this Kenobi dude? We're watching a show about Kenobi, but yeah, fuck him. Like, that's where I think, I don't think it should have been made into a movie. I just think it should have been less about
I think it shouldn't have been done.
Not for a couple more years.
For me, as with a lot of Star Wars things, it seemed like an obvious, like, we're doing this because Kenobi's popular and we can make money off of him, rather than, hey, we have a good story about Kenobi that we want people to see that could have an impact and could give a good message while also being an exciting new look at Kenobi. There was none of that. It was just straight, hey, let's make money off of this character.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple. So this one's obvious, but obviously people still think that the whole somehow Palpatine return was a fuck up, because there's a report that the next Star Wars movie is not going to repeat the huge mistakes of the previous Star Wars movie, which is bringing back Palpatine. So that basically saying the actor that played Palpatine is not going to return to Star Wars. They interviewed him, said he hasn't been approached. And he's like, won't return again. Which, I mean, obvious. I think most of us knew that and are happy about that. But yeah, it was a fuck up. So it's good that they, I guess, learned from that, maybe.
Right. Skeleton Crew, I don't know if it has been talked about. Skeleton Crew does get an episode count. Same thing with Acolyte. Skeleton Crew and Acolyte are being right on par with the Mandoverse, with Ahsoka. It's going to be 8 episodes for season 1.
It's going to be, sorry?
8 episodes of Acolyte and 8 episodes of Skeleton Crew. Skeleton Crew, obviously,
again, these short seasons, Chris mentioned it. These short seasons are, I don't know, Disney. That's scary.
Right? Like, you can't, I mean, I can't say you can't tell a story in 8 episodes.
You can.
Because we've seen it done in non-Star Wars projects.
Yeah, like The Last of Us.
Yes. And
that was a short.
And we've seen it in a couple Star Wars projects, like season 1 of Mando was kick-ass. But I don't think that, especially when you're introducing something like the Acolytes, you need
what do all the bad Star Wars projects have in common? They're cheap stories. They're stories that are not well developed. And it's because the episodes have been short and they're trying to jam a lot into a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying like I need long episodes. I'm not saying I need long seasons. You just are closer to that risk, I guess.
Do double it, or even you don't even have to double it. Do it in 12 episodes.
Yeah. I guess it just depends on what the plot is and what the whole purpose of the story is.
Well, I think because
Andor wasn't bad.
Andor wasn't bad. It was a bit like it struggled to get my attention. I constantly had to fight sleep, and I did fall asleep during a lot of
loved
Andor.
it, but yeah, some people didn't.
I think with Acolyte, where you're literally bringing something that we have not talked about before.
Yeah, that's true.
Into the Star Wars universe, there needs to be more than 8 episodes. Because we've heard of Acolytes, but we've never seen them. We don't really know the history of them. We don't really know exactly what and who and everything. You need more. We need more.
I had Dave Filoni was talking about Ahsoka. I thought you would like it. He basically said that kind of what we're going to see is that she's a wanderer at this point and is in a lot of ways wary of an organization as such because of the power that comes with it as a group. She walks a path that basically died out a long time ago, and there aren't many like her left, if any. So that's a lonely thing. What is that life like? If you're a loner, you have a very small circle of friends. What is it like then when you tried to open back up. And he's basically saying the biggest challenge is that you have the biggest challenge with this upcoming series is that you have a lot of people that are familiar with Ahsoka and want to see more of her, and a lot of people who didn't watch animated shows that are new to this character, and you want to be able to satisfy them both. And to be honest, that's true. I mean, that's what you get in Star Wars when you just take advantage that everybody's going to watch everything.
Mm-hmm.
You take for granted all the fans. With Bad Batch, with the last series of Kenobi, with Book of Boba Fett, you just automatically assume that everybody's going to watch every single thing you put out, no matter how good or bad it is. And I'm sorry,
and
that's not the way it works.
Don't get me wrong, we will watch it, just maybe not more than once.
Not everybody. Some people just won't watch it.
Fair.
Dude, if I wasn't part of the podcast, I probably would have turned off Book of Boba Fett before I finished it.
I did not have that option.
I know. Chris says, I know I'm kind of a broken record, but they need to start upping the rating of these shows. I understand that Star Wars is meant to be family friendly, but I feel like they're so limited being PG-13.
They are, but
some of them.
They are, but also at the same time, you can't do that. You can, but you can't, because it's still under the Disney flag. So Disney is, it's hard pressed to get anything that Disney owns that is more than PG-13.
Right.
Like, you even see it, they own ABC, even with like the ABC, they do the beauty pageant. Like, even then it's PG-13 because mild nudity, as in the girls are just walking around in bikinis. Like,
right.
So
I don't know. I'd love to see a little bit more.
I would love to
R-rated, maybe.
Drop the F-bomb. Love to see it.
Maybe not the F-bomb, but I'd definitely love to see a little bit more adult.
No, with the rating of PG-13, you can have one F-bomb in the entire movie. And nobody takes advantage of it.
Actually, no, I take that back. I don't think you even need R, because if you look at a show like The Dark Knight, that's plenty dark, plenty mature enough. You can make good PG-13.
Yeah.
I just don't think Disney can.
Correct.
Disney's not. I don't know if it's the rating necessarily. I think it's just Disney. Disney, from the very beginning, is not very good at making complex. Generally speaking, is not very good at making complex, deep, dark, adult themed shows. Okay, Disney's brand is basically taking those stories and watering them down so that kids can understand them. Like, that's what Mary Poppins was. Okay, Mary Poppins was a real book about some real shit, and they watered it down for kids. That's what Disney's. That's Disney's Mary brand. Poppins. It's taking shit, watering it down, adding sugar, and giving it to people. You know what I mean?
And spice and everything nice.
Yeah, that's Disney's brand.
Since we're on Mary Poppins, Garrison, just a spoonful of sugar helps it all go down.
Yeah.
I do have a couple toy things. If you are done with your news, I don't know if you have anything else.
2 more. Yes, there's rumors about the Ubisoft game coming out in 2024. Yep. God, I hope so. Not much else about that. Then Taika Waititi, however you say his name, they're talking about his movie, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm still working on it." And he goes, "I've got a really good idea for it." He's like, "I have great ideas. It's going to be good. I've got a really good idea for it. It's just as with all films, it's the middle part. You're like, what's going to happen?" And then you look at all those films that are so great. You're like, well, I guess they can't meet some smuggler with an alien sidekick again. Basically saying, I've got a really good idea. It's just the middle part. It sounds like you don't have a film, bro.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like you have...
That's great. You have great ideas, but you don't have the middle. Sounds like you don't have ideas.
An ending like that. Those are kind of sortas. Like, I kind of.
That sounds like all Disney shit. Right? They know where they're starting. They know where they want to get to. The middle's bullshit.
And then they realize what the deadline is, and they're like, fuck, let's just throw sparkles and I don't even know what, a couple explosions and it's good.
That's literally Disney's problem is we know where we're starting. We know where we want to get to. The middle is a bunch of shit.
It was Disney's problem. Bob Iger has come out and is like, that's not happening anymore. So hopefully we know Skeleton Crew and Acolyte and all of the new ones that are just coming out, those were pre-Bob Iger taking back over. So be gentle. But I think that in the next few years, with Bob coming back, that we are going to see a lot of change, and it's going to be for the better, because he's come out and said it. He's like, this is not the way this was supposed to go. This is not happening like this. We're fixing everything. And he did. He came in and he essentially ripped all of the posters, everything up, and he's like, we're starting over.
Which is good, because that's what they need. But there's also no guarantee that it'll be good, because I feel like Acolyte and like this Ahsoka show were made, and most of the filming was done before he came in and ripped everything to shreds.
Yeah, Acolyte and Skeleton Crew and Ahsoka were all done before Bob Iger came in. So that's why I was like, there's no guarantee. I was going to say that's why I said be gentle with the next few projects, and I have to remind myself too, because I'm, as we talked about in previous episodes, extremely like
hesitant.
Words, not hesitant. English.
Pessimistic, not optimistic.
Critiquey.
Oh, gotcha. I'm not optimistic about this, to be honest. I think I'm worried that they're going to be bad.
I don't think Ahsoka is going to be bad, only because that is Filoni's baby child.
Yeah. And that's what you've said that 1,000 times. CJ said that 1,000 times. Kyle said that 1,000 times. And
I think
I get it. I just don't have that undying trust, I guess.
I think the ones that we have to worry about is Skeleton Crew and Acolytes. Well, think about it.
Acolyte already I'm worried about.
Yes, especially because it's been considered the space what did they say it was? The space Star Wars
and Skeleton Crew. Both of those just not looking forward to it, to be honest. The space what?
I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to look it back up.
I don't remember what you're talking about exactly. So sorry, I can't help.
Son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch.
Now scroll.
Chris says I don't have very high expectations for Skeleton Crew.
It wasn't Acolytes, it was Skeleton Crew. Skeleton Crew is described as Stranger Things in space.
Oh God.
So to say I'm a little bit worried.
I hate it. Dude. It's like, hey, again, it's like, why can't we make a good story on our own? We're trying to cash in on something that we think we can make money on instead of actually putting in the work and making a good story.
Think about it, though. Like, how many new ideas truly are there? Everything has been done. Everything is always going to be compared to something else. I don't think that they purposefully tried to make it a Stranger Thing in space. I think that that's just what the people who have seen the pre-release has seen. So that I think that's because we do it every day, where we look at something and go, hey, that reminds me of this thing. We see it in movies all the time. That's why there's posters that look like other movies posters. It's because it makes you think of, oh, well, I saw this movie, I liked it. This poster reminds me of this poster. I'm gonna like this movie too. I have to see it.
That's a great point, Tori. That's a great point.
So they play into the psychology of it. But I think that I am hoping this is what it is. I could be extremely wrong, in which case I'll be very brokenhearted. But I think the reason that it's being described as a Stranger Thing in space is because the people who have seen it pre-release is like, oh, hey, this reminds me of Stranger Things. I don't think that they purposefully went out and was like, let's make a Stranger Things in space.
That's a great point. That's a good point.
But Acolyte,
I didn't like
Acolyte,
Stranger
I'm
Things
worried
to
about.
begin with, so I'm still worried about it.
I liked Stranger Things, and then
I'm just.
I
I've said
haven't
this
seen the
before.
last season.
I said this before. The whole like kids going on these adventures thing. It's very like we've seen the Goonies, dude. I'm good.
Goonies never say die. It's true though. Like Goonies, and then we had Ghostbusters, where they were kids. I believe it was Ghostbusters.
The original Ghostbusters?
No, it
I don't
wasn't the
remember
original.
that.
I think it was the Ghostbusters Afterlife. I think it was.
Oh, they had like another
Yeah,
knockoff.
they had.
Yeah, I didn't see any of the newer ones.
And I still haven't seen it. I have it at my house. I stole it from my mom, and being like, "Yeah, I'm gonna watch this tonight," and then I fell asleep. But like Goonies, like all of that. I think as much as I love them bringing in the kids, I think that if it's gonna be a nitty gritty whatever, bring in adults. You're gonna have so much more cool shit that you can do.
Yeah, I've never like even it. I didn't like it just because it's so much around these kids and this.
I did not
it
like
just gets
the
really
remake.
dumb.
I loved Skarsgård's Pennywise.
Yeah, he does a great job, but the kids kind of kill it for me.
Yes, mainly because the eye thing that he did was not CGI. It was not contacts moving. It was his literal eye that would do that. And Bill, what the fuck ever, he's a comedian. He was in that movie. He literally walked up to Skarsgård and was like, dude, that thing that happens with your eyes in the movie is really fucking weird. And Bill Skarsgård literally looked at him and was like, oh, what, this? And he made his eye do the thing. And there's actually a clip where it's frame by frame. You can see Bill, comedian, I can't remember his name, but you can see him freaking the fuck out at Skarsgård because he made his eye do the thing. It's the greatest thing ever.
I feel that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's a great actor, which I would love to see him in Star Wars, to be honest.
Me too.
But yeah. Where were we on news?
You had one more
Skeleton
thing,
Crew. No, I was it on news.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you had two more things, and I thought you only did one. Oh well.
I had I did a brief one on Ubisoft, and then
yeah. Okay. Target has started to place tags for the exclusive comic art edition Boba Fett.
Okay.
So check your local Targets. Target also has an exclusive Indiana Jones figure that is currently in stock. Available June 12th. There is a new Droid Factory figure that will be available for purchase for Return of the 40th. It is R2S4M. And it's essentially a red R2 or a white R2 unit with red racing stripes. It's the only thing I can use to explain it. And
red
it looks
racing stripes.
Right. So he has the tray, the drink tray, and it has little cups in it. And it looks like a beer tap that's coming out of his head.
Dope. My favorite R2 unit.
Right. Like it straight up looks like his insides were removed and he is now a tiny kegerator on wheels.
He's the R2 unit for the frat house.
You can get Ezra Bridger's Legacy lightsaber on shopdisney.com now.
Yep. Which isn't there a link to that on flipping Disney Plus now? So
I think so. Also, if you jump over to Yak Face, he does have the link in his bio.
Yak Face?
Yes, he works for Hasbro or he works for Hasbro or something like that, but he's essentially who gets all of the new toy news before anybody else does. He has to work for Hasbro because he posts pictures in an office meeting room. Mm-hmm. And it has the projector of things that are coming. Indiana Jones, they have an adventure series. And the Adventure series is actually really cool. I almost picked up a couple at Target. But they're figures. They're pretty decent sized figures. And each one of them comes with a little piece to a puzzle. And like, I know.
That's cool.
Yes. So you have to collect all of the action figures to get the whole piece. One of the mystery pieces that you build is the Ark of the Covenant.
That's cool. So
you get all of the pieces or the characters from like the first movie, and you have your own Ark of the Covenant. So it's really
seen
cool.
Has the new Indiana Jones come out yet?
I don't think so.
I've heard like bad things from the pre-releases, but
Indiana Jones 5 release. Doop.
I have not heard very.
It is coming out June 30th, so the 30th of this month is when it is hitting theaters. Let's see if it has any Rotten Tomatoes. The Dial of Destiny. Tomatoes. It has about a 50% tomato meter. It's the critics consensus. So make your own thoughts, please, because right now it's hitting about 50-50. God, my shirt will not stay up.
Chris, I'm just kidding.
Ooh.
I'm sorry, Chris.
Bill Hader, thank you, Chris. Bill Hader. Shit. That was gonna drive me nuts all fucking day. Bill Hader. That's the comedian.
Which one's Bill Hader? Is he the one that was in
He was in It.
Oh, yes.
He was also on SNL for the longest fucking time. He's
Bill Hader.
White humorous.
Yes. He was good on like back when SNL used to be like a lot better, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still like it, but it used to be so much better. You had
is that it for news?
That's it for news.
I had. All right. Well, we didn't have a quiz today, unfortunately.
And I'm using my phone. So
no, you're good.
Heads up.
You're good. So that's it. Thanks for coming on. I'm actually surprised it went this long.
Me too.
Wow. Yeah. Me and Tori can get to talking. Let us know what you thought about this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this with your friends. It's a great time. It's always fun having new people on, sharing new ideas. Tori, anything you want to say?
Sometimes we have these episodes where there's one of us at the beginning and one of us comes in a little bit slower. We don't have the full gang together. If you would like to be on an episode, make sure to shoot us an email or a message on Instagram, and we can look at our schedule.
We can see.
And the summer's coming up. CJ and I might not be able to be here, or Kyle might not be able to be here, or Garrison. Hey, we can look at our schedule. We can find you. We'd love to have you on.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Let us know what you think. Obviously, like and subscribe, and peace. May the force be with you.
Make good choices.
Thank you for tuning in to LSR. If you've enjoyed the show, consider subscribing so you can be notified when new episodes are released. If you would like to be a guest on the show or just want to give us some feedback, feel free to email us. You can also reach out to us on all major social media platforms. Lightsaber Radio is produced by Pickfilm Media and is a Swaycast original, starring Garrison Turcotte, CJ Elliott, and Kyle McDaniel. And don't forget to join us next time for more adventures in a galaxy far, far away.